Yo, Gerard.
Yo.
Are we on? We doing this?
Yes, it's your turn. Trevor, John, take it away.
Great. Thanks, man. Hey, everyone. I'm Trevor Jett, CRO here at Vivun. First up, let's hear the CRO POV of AI from the front line.
Okay, can we fit another acronym into that intro?
So nice to meet everyone. Trevor Jett, CRO here at Vivun. Pleasure to be here today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Allison Grieb. I'm the Chief Sales Officer at Paystand.
My name is Vinesh Vis, Chief Revenue Officer at Smarsh.
Steve D'Angelo, partner with BCG.
Someone that Alice and I both used to work with years ago used to say, if you're selling something, it should increase revenue, decrease cost, or make a material change in the way that you operate. And so when I look at a lot of these tools and trying to figure out like really where the value is, including our own, it's in that determination. Like, is it changing the way that you do business?
One of the biggest challenges sales organizations have had for many, many years and continue to have is, do I have the right talent and am I enabling my talent? These days, through the advent of AI, we're able to identify through data modeling what are the behavioral attributes, behavioral traits, and skills that are required to be a top performer for a specific sales organization. And by modeling those top performers and then modeling those that are not performing at the highest level, we're able to identify where the very specific enablement has to take place. The second area is in the RFP responses. RFPs have always been a very difficult thing from a time perspective, making sure you're answering them correctly. We're seeing companies cut 80-90% time off of what it takes to respond to an RFP. And then the final area is real-time coaching. I've got a Zoom call going on. The AI engine is listening, it's transcribing, but most important, there's a section on the screen where it's providing the salesperson advice as to, you should be going down this path. The prospect said this, position this value proposition. And it does take a little bit of time for the rep to kind of be able to maneuver this, having a live conversation, getting the coaching there digitally, utilizing that information. But those are the three areas, and they're having really a dramatic positive impact on some of performance.
Very similar to what Steve was talking about. Yeah, we think about just general research on our accounts. Our reps have started playing around with Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini, you name it. And so that we're still in the infancy stages, I would call it, of exploring which tools are going to be best and how do we programatize it. When we think about using a Perplexity or ChatGPT to go do some initial research, how that translates into a broader account plan is where I think I see this going really well, especially for folks that cover enterprise accounts. Going through and creating a truly robust account plan can take a lot of human hours. And so doing more of that through AI, I think is going to make people a lot more efficient, and it's going to give sales reps an ability to get faster ramp time, faster time to productivity as well too. Another area that I see and what we've already started to kind of think about is operational insights. I think the world that we're going to all see moving towards is being able to say, how can an agent help me to make decisions when I don't even know that I need to make decisions? So it's leading me one step ahead versus me pulling it alongside things. And the same, I think, is going to apply down at the sales rep level as well too. When you think about next best action for a sales rep in any of their prospecting or any of their deal cycles, if you have an agent as a virtual teammate that's telling you what to do next, think about how powerful that can be. It's going to compress sales cycles, lower the customer acquisition cost, and everybody benefits in that world. The other area I would look at is as you think about the overall sales process that you might engage with, how a customer expects to engage with a sales rep and a vendor, I think is going to evolve very, very quickly. And what I mean by that is we all know that customers don't want to talk to a sales rep unless they have to. And more importantly, they're going to want to talk to an agent if that's a better option. So especially when a rep is either unavailable or maybe doesn't always have the answer right at their fingertips, the more that we can train an agent to answer questions. If a customer has a question about pricing or certain terms and conditions, being able to ask an agent those questions saves time for the customer, saves time for the rep. Everybody makes money that way. And so it's much more efficiency.
And to what Vinesh just mentioned, prospects don't want to talk to salespeople until they're ready. You have to deploy some kind of technology to educate them. They want self-service. They want conversational AI. And what we're doing and what we're seeing a lot of is allowing a prospect to engage with your digital agent to ask questions, have a dialogue. It's almost as though a real person is having that dialogue. And then what's happening, of course, in the background, all this data is being gathered and synchronized so that when the prospect does raise their hand, I am furnished with all of this information about the dialogue that took place. What are the needs? What are the areas you're focusing in on, et cetera? It's even now getting to a point where the first demos, where SEs are typically dragged into do these first, sometimes unqualified demos, conversational AI is able to do those demos. So while it's early in that area, we're starting to see it move pretty quickly.
So we were at an offsite maybe 6 months ago, and leadership, we were all saying we need to do more AI. More AI? And everyone just kind of looked around at each other and said, well, I'm using ChatGPT, and it just isn't cutting it, right? So we've introduced the concept of a go-to-market engineer. So I've got someone in go-to-market that is going to sit with me, that's going to be my AI guru, right? Who has a dotted line to our head of engineering and is going to make sure that the work that we're doing inside of go-to-market aligns with what's happening in customer operations and payment processing and in support, and that we're not doing duplicative. Because I think all of us that have been at early stage companies have seen companies go out and buy 25 technologies, and then all of a sudden you have all these silos of information, of business, and nothing talks to each other, right? So we're really being intentional about these go-to-market engineers and putting them across the organization so that we can find new paths, because there's still a lot of AI fluff out there. I think everybody says AI and go-to-market now, but what's real? I think all of us, no matter how much AI we have, we're still all in charge of revenue. So revenue is still king, right? So it's making sure that we design measurable metrics for each solution that we're driving, right? So for the go-to-market engineer, we will have various projects that will have various KPIs and metrics, but all with revenue, all with all of the metrics that ladder up to revenue.
I think one of the things Allison said was important about, CROs, we're still responsible for revenue. I will share with all the CROs, just about every client that I'm involved in at the executive level, CEO, board level, they are looking to reduce sales operating costs. It's a constant focus. And the way that AI is impacting that is sales organization, sales team size will definitely shrink. As you talk about conversational AI that I just shared, and you think about prospects engaging with digital agents early in the sales cycle, maybe through 60% of their buy process, we don't need as many SDRs. We don't need as many solution engineers. And I know this is a controversial topic, but the reality is AI will allow us to shrink our sales organization. We will operate much more efficiently. We'll have a much lower operational cost, but yet it won't reduce the focus on revenue generation, of course.
We've all been trained over the last 4 or 5 years, in this profitability, right? And it used to be growth at all costs, right? And then it became, well, no, you got to run the business with profitability in mind. And so I think some of us are used to more juggling that. And so it's been good training wheels for what you're talking about to come. But it is going to be, an efficiency play, and how do I get more out of each resource?
And as you think about just the overall productivity model, to what Allison was talking about as well too, I've been always in a private equity backed software company. That's the DNA that I've grown up with. But you're seeing a lot of folks that are in venture capital backed companies that are looking for that combination of growth and profitability as well too. I think agentic AI is going to be a key piece of how that gets done. So normally somebody might take at the start of a year, okay, I've got an Excel spreadsheet and we're going to build up a capacity plan of how many account executives, how many sales engineers, et cetera, do I need, and what productivity can I get out of each of those individuals? And when we start to think about where the efficiency gains are through each stage of the sales process, well, we can start to create more productivity out of that same seller and get a higher capacity, which is a higher quota as a result of it as well too. And so as we look at that from an investor standpoint, all of a sudden now, in the private equity world, what traditionally was the rule of 30 or the rule of 40 starts to go up to a rule of 70, rule of 80, because you can actually drive that much more growth and profitability with agents and just overall agentic AI stretching across go-to-market, but all facets of the business as well too.
So since there are these efficiencies by using AI, sales organizations shrinking, CFOs that I work with are saying we can afford to actually enrich our comp plan because we are more efficient. We are reducing some of our overall sales operational costs. We want to keep our star players because we've invested so much in sales enablement. We don't want them leaving. We could now start to tweak our comp plans and start pay them more aggressively for the top performers. So we tend to look at technology that it tends to kind of hurt, reducing sales size, sales team size. Am I going to be as important? Here's an example where for those that are performing, they're going to start to experience more aggressive comp plans, being paid more because, again, sales operation cost allows it.
I think a few things are in motion now, like the things that kept people from getting to critical mass in their roles as an SE, an AE, or whatever was access to expertise, because we went to formal training. We flew to formal training. We were ridiculous to do now. So those things happen a lot faster now than they ever did before. And so now we can ramp these things up a lot faster. The AE in the mix on the go-to-market team has access to expertise that they did not have access to before. And we typically think of that ratio as the AE to SE ratio. And so that number is going to change completely, because now AEs can either do their own demo, or I think it was Steven that pointed out they're not even going to do the first demo. Like the first demo is going to happen agentically, and they're going to be that much farther along in the process. But that access to expertise is going to change things both from an SE perspective and from an overlay perspective. And that's the thing that I don't think many people have contemplated. If you go back to my resume, I worked for some big blue companies that were known for backing up the school bus whenever we'd go to a meeting, because there was like anybody that knew anything about this thing would show up. And I'm wondering if we don't need the school bus anymore, because now we can go in and say, I'm going to be an expert enough on these things in these subject areas, in these verticals. I think that's going to change the ratios entirely. And back to Steven's point again, we're going to hire fewer people as a result.
If you look back many years ago, somewhat of Trevor starting with Big Blue, I started with Big Red. There was the, hey, go buy Siebel and everything comes around it. Then you had Salesforce and all the ecosystem around it that kind of came about. I think we're entering a world now, this is unprecedented, where it's going to be really an agentic AI-based stack that kind of builds ground up. That is going to be very interesting to see how that influences vendors that we probably deal with today versus with the vendors we deal with tomorrow. But the one key thing I would give the audience is start with the end in mind. If you don't map out the customer journey and understand what are you trying to solve for, back to even what Allison was saying around know what metrics and ROI you're really trying to get out of leveraging any type of an agentic AI solution end to end, map out the process, then kind of back into the solution to make sense, and hopefully it helps you drive your business forward.
I think be intentional and prescriptive about how can we leverage AI to do better. I think I don't like to approach it from a cost cutting, head cutting. That's not my style, but how do I create efficiencies? How do I increase productivity? How do I serve up the right at-bats for my AEs to knock down? Traditionally, I would be looking to double my sales force year over year. I don't know that I need to do that. I need to create efficiencies for the team that I've got and put them in a position to potentially take over the sales cycle in the middle of the cycle and knock it down. So it gives everybody a chance to win faster. But I do believe that you have to be intentional. You have to take the time. And you've got to, talk to peers, right? And listen to things like this where people are actually doing it, because we want to crowdsource and share what's really working, because AI will become a competitive advantage.
I think I would just zoom out a little bit for sales leaders that are of a certain age and say, believe it, come down on the right side of history. Like, this is how it's going to be. And more importantly, like the next generation of sales reps, I forget who pointed out, like, they aren't going to just benefit from it. They're going to expect it. Like, if you don't have these things, they're not going to go to work for you, because you're going to be this dinosaur of a company. So you got to stay up to date on these things, make it work, but don't just dismiss it like, oh, AI is like, it's not. This is how your life is going to be. This is how our organizations are going to be.